What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Fantasy Fellow Show. My name is Kyle. Today's video, it's Saturday morning here. We're going to be going over the player prop bets using DraftKings Sportsbook. If you're new to the channel, what I do is I'm just going to open up each game. Typically, my favorite bets are the touchdown bets. We can look at some of the receiving and rushing props, a couple quarterback props as well. But the idea of this show is to just identify some things that feel good and shout out some potential bets that hopefully, if one catches your eye in this video, you take it. So let's go ahead and get into a screen share here. I'm going to be looking at DraftKings Sportsbook again. And then some things that help me, I have a tool on the fantasyfellowship.com. If you kind of hover over 2021 content, you can hit fantasy points allowed. Or if you're on the homepage of the fantasyfellowship.com, you just hit the fantasy points allowed tab. And we got tons of stats here that we can look at and open up while we're trying to figure out some touchdown numbers. So the first game on the slate, Green Bay at Minnesota. Let's see here. Packers favored to win by 1. Money line, Packers minus 115. Kind of like the Packers money line here. Let's go ahead and pop into this one. I usually take a first peek at the QB props. They got passing yards for Rodgers, 272.5. Kirk Cousins, 267.5. Nothing feels good to me there. Passing touchdowns, though, they got Rodgers at 2.5. Kirk Cousins minus 1.5. So people are taking Cousins to throw for 2 touchdowns and betting under 2.5 for Rodgers so far. Interceptions don't really intrigue me that much. So we'll see here. I kind of like Rodgers to go for 280.5 total rushing and receiving, or rushing and throwing. Let's pop open these touchdown scores here. So Devonta Adams, of course, minus 150 to score. I don't know how we don't put A.J. Dillon on this one at minus 125. I think if you throw a 20 piece at that, you're going to end up almost 80% of your money. So $16, that's a pretty good sized return there. So I like A.J. Dillon first off the gate. Devonta Adams is due, man. If I go to my friendly I haven't pulled up the StatMuse in a long time, but StatMuse is great. Devonta Adams versus Vikings, and then we're going to add the word game log. Let's see what Devontae did last year. So in 2 games against the Vikings last year, 7 receptions, 53 yards, 3 touchdowns. Devonta Adams looks like early September, 14 receptions, 156 yards, and 2 touchdowns. The man's gone over 100 yards in 3 of his last 4 days or games against the Vikings. So I'm thinking Devonta Adams minus 150, minus 125 for A.J. Dillon feels really good. And then on the inverse of this, let's take a peek here at Dalvin Cook. Dalvin Cook versus Packers, and add the word game log here. And he scored 6 touchdowns or 5 touchdowns in the 2 games last year. Actually, it was 6. He had 4 in 1 game. Looks like that was a big game for him. 163 rushing yards, 3 rushing touchdowns, 63 receiving yards, and a receiving touchdown. So massive game from Dalvin Cook last year. So Cook, I really like all 3 of these guys. And to be honest, Dalvin Cook at minus 125 doesn't really make sense to me. So these are the 3 touchdown bets that I really feel good about. The Packers pass defense has been pretty stingy. So Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, I think those are more kind of 50-50 gambles. I don't think Allen Lazard's going to play. He's been doubtful all week on the practice reports. Randall Cobb, not a fan. But Marquez Valdez-Scantling, just with no Lazard, that's going to mean more Cobb, more MVS. And I think MVS is due. Rodgers hit him on a 40-yard play last week, and I remember when MVS was healthy earlier in the season, Rodgers has missed MVS for a few. So if you're looking for a kind of boom, high reward play here, MVS to score a touchdown wouldn't surprise me. And then after that, outside of Justin Jefferson's probably a good option to score here. Let me just look and see what JJ did last year against this team. So that first, really nothing. They've held Justin Jefferson in check, and that was mostly with Jair Alexander. So I'm interested to see if they allow the rookie Eric Stokes to get on him. But I think for these touchdowns, I feel good about Dillon, Adams, Cook, MVS. And I think if you want to put one on Jefferson or maybe Adam Thielen might be the guy here. Let me just take a peek what he did last year. So Thielen did catch 2 touchdowns in that first game in September, really stifled in the second game here. So maybe Thielen might be the guy here. Again, I think they're going to use their rookie cornerback Eric Stokes on Justin Jefferson. So maybe that's I don't know. I feel good about those touchdowns. Let's look at the receiving and rushing. A.J. Dillon 80 and 81.5. Dalvin Cook 83.5. Let me see the Vikings. And again, this is going to help us decide here. So the Vikings and the Packers. It does look like the Packers are the 22nd team here against the run in PPR formats. They only allow about 22 points per game, but they're holding teams to under about 74 rushing yards per game to the running backs. And then the Vikings, Up here, they do allow over 100 yards per game to the running back. So if you're going to take someone's yards, it's probably A.J. Dillon's. Receiving numbers here, Thielen's low at 60, A.J. Dillon at 27.5, Dalvin Cook maybe at 21.5, but people are taking that one there. And I'm going to take Devonta Adams over 97.5. I think that one feels pretty good. And then I'm going to hit that MVS one. So Justin Jefferson, I need to see a little bit more. I think I'm curious to see if he can connect against these Packers cornerbacks. But that's pretty much it. I spent a lot of time on that game. Let's hop into another game. Saints and Eagles. I don't know how great I feel about the touchdown scorers in this one. If I had to just pick off the top of my head, Mark Ingram, probably the safest play here. It's minus 105, so that's not too daunting here. You basically can get a double up out of Mark Ingram there. So that feels good. Jalen Hertz rushing touchdown. It might have been a while since we've seen a Jalen Hertz rushing touchdown. So I think if anyone's going to score for Philly, that one does feel good. The Jordan Howard, Boston Scott, Kenneth Gainwell. I don't know if I want to ride that roller coaster. So it's hard for me to pick a running back here. If there is one running back, I'll go with Jordan Howard. But Devonta Smith, man, plus 170 to score a touchdown. He's scored touchdowns in the last 2 games, so he's kind of riding high right now. I think that could be a fun one. And then Dallas Goddard, who just got paid that massive contract the other day. So I do have to show you the Saints. Everyone's like, oh, it's a tough matchup against the Saints, but man, they allow a lot of wide receiver points here. They come in at number 4, allowing almost 41.5 PPR points per game to the wide receivers. They do limit the reception totals, but the yards, man, they allow some big plays. So Devonta Smith, Quez Watkins, I think I'm interested there. They have allowed 10 touchdowns to the opponent's wide receivers. And then against tight end, let me see, where is the Saints? They're down here at 25. They've only allowed 1 tight end touchdown all season, so maybe that doesn't excite me about Dallas Goddard. I'll take him off the board. But Devonta Smith, and then if you're really feeling it, Quez Watkins, I think those would be my 2 Eagle guys to score touchdowns. And then on the Saints side, Philly allows the most tight end points, so Adam Troutman is in play here. They've allowed 8 touchdowns to the tight end, and basically they're allowing 7 catches in 70 yards per game to the tight end. So Adam Troutman down here at plus 400. I think I'll throw that on the wild and woolly list. And then against wide receivers, again, we already looked and saw where is Philly? Philly against the wide receivers, man, they're pretty stingy. So in 10 games, they're allowing some of the fewest yards, receptions, and touchdowns to the wide receiver position here. So I'm a little bit nervous about putting something on Callaway, Traquan, or even Deontay Harris. It could happen, but I think if you're going to bet on anyone from the Saints side, just take that Mark Ingram rushing touchdown and see what happens. So that's fun. I think I covered those touchdown props pretty well. Let's look at these rushing and receiving numbers. I'll probably, again, because we highlighted that the Eagles do allow a ton of tight end points. I think Adam Troutman, 25.5 yards. That one does feel pretty good to me. Devonta Smith, 57.5 yards. That does feel pretty good. I'm just leaning into some of these numbers that we just looked at. But I want to look at Mark Ingram, because Mark Ingram, 91.5 total yards here, rushing and receiving. If we look at what the Eagles allow for running backs here, so Philadelphia allows the 9th most PPR points to the running back. So they allow almost 95 yards rushing for the running backs per game, and then they allow almost 40 yards receiving per game. So if we're going to take 90 plus 40, that gives Mark Ingram the upside of maybe 130 total yards in this one. So I think 91.5, I think I'm interested in that quite a bit. Probably going to be people are like, I'm excited about this game because it could go either way. I know the Saints are without a couple tackles. I think maybe 2 offensive linemen for sure. So we'll see what happens. But as far as that one's concerned, I don't want to even look at the QB props for that one. Let's move on to another game. The Dolphins and Jets. We'll be brief here. I don't expect a lot of touchdowns in this one, as does the sportsbook here. They have nobody with minus odds here, but if you had to bet on somebody, it's probably the running backs, Michael Carter and Myles Gaskin. As we see, the Jets allow the most fantasy points to the running back position. They've allowed 17 rushing touchdowns and 3 receiving touchdowns. So 20 total. Myles Gaskin, if he's going to score this weekend, I'm not going to be surprised at all. So that's probably one of the top plays, Myles Gaskin. And then the Dolphins down here, they are quite stingy against the running backs for touchdowns. Only 9. That's less than half of what the Jets allow. So maybe not so high on Michael Carter. Let me see what the Dolphins do allow. The Dolphins do allow wide receiver points. So they've allowed 12 total touchdowns to the wide receiver. So I guess if you had to pick which one Joe Flacco is going to connect with, it's probably Corey Davis, but I can see Jamison Crowder, Elijah Moore. If you have any good feelings about any of these guys, I'd say go for it. I'm probably going to leave them off my list, but if the Jets are going to score, I think it's going to be passing touchdowns. I think that's pretty safe to say. I just want to look at the tool up here. So this chart really shows what teams are bad at. So the Jets, they are bad against running back. So you want to target green here. The Dolphins, they show up green against QB, receiver, and tight end. So maybe this is a Flacco game. I don't know. He could probably punch a couple touchdowns in here to Davis, Crowder, Elijah Moore. Now, I do like Tua Tagovailoa. If you're feeling sneaky for a rushing touchdown, that does feel pretty good. Again, the Jets allow running points, so maybe Tua is an interesting play here. I just want to double check here. The Jets do allow a good amount of tight end points, so it might be Gesicki. Gesicki 0 for 7 on his targets last week, so I like Gesicki. Jaylen Waddle doesn't really score touchdowns, but again, I wouldn't be surprised if he scores. Let's actually look at some of these rushing and receiving. Gaskin, 47.5. Let's actually go look at this. Combined. So I kind of like Carter and Gaskin to both hit their overs here. 73.5 for Gaskin, 78.5 for Carter. Carter's been one of the best, most productive backs the last 4 or 5 games just in terms of all-purpose yards here, so I'm not too surprised. I like Carter and I like Myles Gaskin there. Let's look at some of the receiving numbers. You got Jaylen Waddle, 62.5, Gesicki, 53.5. All the, I guess, the receivers here for the Jets, 50.5 for Davis, 33.5 for Elijah, 39.5 for Crowder. And I wouldn't be surprised if all of these guys actually hit their overs. They got Joe Flacco at a low of 228.5 passing yards. I probably would take the over on that. And then as well as Tua, because in the games that Tua's played full games, man, they really let him throw the ball sometimes 30, 40 times per game. But again, it's the Jets. We'll see what happens. So I don't know. Stay away from this one, I think, for the most part. Gaskin, Carter, Gesicki, those are probably my favorite touchdown bets. And then maybe look at some of those receivers. Let's get to the football team and the Carolina Panthers. Let's look at these touchdown scores. So Christian McCaffrey, probably a good bet to just put a touchdown prop on him every week. Cam Newton rushing touchdown, probably the last week that if he scores a rushing touchdown, it's probably the last week that we get him at plus odds here. And then Antonio Gibson, we saw after the bye week, the football team showed a commitment to Gibson to get him the ball 24 times. And if this game's close, they're going to continue to run Gibson. So I like Gibson for a touchdown here. If we look at what the Panthers and the football team allow, I mean, Washington, they really are bad against quarterbacks and wide receivers. They are the first worst against the quarterbacks and the second worst against the wide receivers. So that's the 2 spots there. So let's see, where is Carolina? Carolina's down here. They're pretty much red against everything. They are pretty stifling here on terms of all levels, but I think a team like the football team who wants to run the ball and make safe plays here, I still like Gibson to punch one in if they get close. Terry McLaurin, it looks like both their tight ends are going to be out. That's why they have John Bates here. So I'm going to say no. Tomorrow, no Logan Thomas, no Ricky Seals-Jones. So John Bates is a sleeper pick. But I don't know. McCaffrey, Cam Newton, Gibson. If Newton's going to throw a touchdown, it's DJ Moore, it's Robbie Anderson. I think those are too risky for me to trust. And if our guy Taylor Heineke's going to throw a touchdown, it's probably Terry McLaurin, but this DeAndre Carter has been playing well too. So if you're feeling good about McLaurin, he could be due for a nice one, plus 175, but it's that Panthers defense, so I'm a little bit hesitant. So I'm going to stick with the top 3 guys here for touchdown props. Let's look at the rushing totals. Nothing really sticks out here. Cam Newton at 27.5. That one could be kind of fun here. They have Christian McCaffrey pretty low, but we do know that Washington's front is still pretty good. For receiving numbers, McCaffrey at 46.5, DJ Moore 54.5. Again, I like the Carolina receivers in this game. DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson. So if you're thinking, again, looking at this chart, the football team, man, they light up green against QBs and wide receivers. So DJ Moore 54.5 feels really good. Robbie A 30.5, that also feels pretty good. So those are probably my favorite plays here. I'll probably take, people are slamming the over on Gibson receptions here for 1.5. So I don't know. I'm excited to watch this game. I just don't know how many scorers we're going to see in this one. So let's move on to a little more exciting game. Colts and the Buffalo Bills touchdown scores real quick. First of all, let's actually look at this. The Indianapolis Colts, not a great defense right now. They allow quarterbacks, receivers, and tight ends to hit. Buffalo, best in the league against everything. It's going to be tough moving the ball against them. But Jonathan Taylor, he scored a touchdown in the last how many games here? I think it'd be crazy not to at least consider it. So I'm going to put it on the list for you guys. But man, Diggs, Josh Allen, Zach Moss, Sanders, all these guys should be in play for you. I do like Stephon Diggs. Zach Moss gets a touchdown pretty much almost every game that he plays, so he's interesting. If you feel, Josh Allen's probably due for a rushing touchdown, so I could see Allen rushing touchdown, Moss rushing touchdown. Sanders is probably also due for a touchdown. He's got plus 175 odds. I'm not feeling great about Cole Beasley right now. He's dinged up. Michael Pittman Jr. Maybe if Buffalo's moving the ball and scoring, we might have to see Carson Wentz air it out. So Pittman Jr. is probably. I mean, outside of Jonathan Taylor, like you're only going to bet on Michael Pittman. But the guy that I really like here is Dawson Knox. Plus 190 to score. So that what is that? Is almost a triple up here. You put 20 on that, you're going to get a return of 58. So that's pretty good money right there. I like Dawson Knox. Let me show you what the Colts do against the tight ends. They are the 5th worst. So they've allowed in 10 games. So they've allowed 60 catches, 611 yards, and 6 touchdowns. So that's basically 6 catches for 60 yards per game to the tight end, with a 60% chance of scoring for Dawson Knox this week. So I really like Knox. I think we'll probably look at his rushing or his receiving props in a second. But after that, it gets really spotty. I don't know if I trust it. So I'm going to stick with Buffalo. Diggs, Josh Allen rushing touchdown, Zach Moss rushing touchdown, Emmanuel Sanders rushing touchdown, and Dawson Knox. Those are the 5 guys that I feel pretty good about scoring. Take your favorite one of those. Jonathan Taylor, the only guy I think I'm comfortable taking from the Colts side, but if you have to pick someone else, it's probably Pittman Jr. Let me look at the rushing props here. Jonathan Taylor, I can't promise he's going to hit 73.5. None of these rushing props excite me, to be honest. But Dawson Knox, 33.5 receiving yards. I'm hitting the over on that. Diggs, 83.5. That does feel kind of sweet there as Diggs is rolling. We saw him finally boom last week, so Diggs' receiving numbers are good. Knox at 3.5 receptions. Probably, again, we saw that the Colts allow about 6 catches per game to the tight end, so maybe Dawson Knox ends up with 4, 5, 6 catches in this one. But fun game here. I'm open to see the Colts offense kind of do some things to Buffalo that hasn't been done this year. But we'll move on here. Lions and Browns, quick touchdown game. First of all, if you're taking any Lion to score, it's DeAndre Swift. I don't even want to exercise the potential for anybody else. Maybe TJ Hawkinson, but it's just really low. So basically, what Browns do we like? It's Chubb, it's Dearness Johnson, both guys sitting at minus 165. So I don't love it, but we have been doing these bets where, say you take a Nick Chubb touchdown and then you you parlay it with someone else who's really obvious to score. You can get some good odds doing it that way. So I'll put Chubb on the list. I really can't recommend to anybody. I don't even want to really look at this game. So we're gonna move on here to another ugly game: 49ers and the Jacksonville Jaguars. Jaguars, my bad. But Elijah Mitchell not playing. Go get Jeff Wilson touchdown right now for minus 120, because Elijah Mitchell, he's on the doubtful side of things right now, not looking good for him. I think at this point, you got to consider that Deebo Samuel touchdown. He's just been on fire lately. And then if you're picking a Jag, it's James Robinson. That's really the only guy I'm comfortable with. So Wilson, Deebo, James Robinson. Kittle doesn't really score touchdowns. He has been, though, the last 2 games he scored touchdowns. But I think from my comfort level, Wilson, Deebo, James Robinson, stick with those guys. Jeff Wilson, 79.5 rushing. I'm open to that. As far as receiving, I'm probably going to hit. People are taking the Dan Arnold 42.5 over. I do like that quite a bit. I'll be honest, nothing else really feels great in this game, so I'm just going to stick with those touchdowns. Let me know if you guys have any other thoughts on that game in the comments. We'll be quick with this one too. The Texans and the Titans. I can't bank on any Titan or Texan to score, but we will bank on our Titans. So AJ Brown, good bet. Adrian Peterson, good bet. I think Deonta Foreman, probably my favorite bet. So if you're betting on anyone to score in this touchdown, it's the 1, 2, and 3. Of course, the Ryan Tannehill touchdown plus 310. I think he scored 4 rushing touchdowns in the last 5 games. So Tannehill, Foreman, Peterson, AJ Brown, those are my touchdown props. I'm going to hit the Deonta Foreman over 58.5. I think he's the best running back on the Titans. We're going to see that this week. AJ Brown probably going to have a nice game. And that's really all I want to look at for this game. So I'm taking AJ Brown, Peterson, Foreman, and then maybe that Tannehill rushing touchdown. And then we already got to the Packers Vikings. Ravens, Bears. Let me show you guys what the Ravens and Bears are allowing. Ravens defense, not great. They are stingy. It's weird. They're stingy against wide receivers, but they allow tight ends, running backs, and quarterbacks to all score big points here. So for Chicago, that's Cole Kmet, that's David Montgomery, Justin Fields. Those are the guys that I'm going to like for them. And then looking at the Chicago Bears, middle of the road here, they're pretty good against tight ends. So I'm nervous about Mark Andrews. They allow wide receiver points. So Marquise Brown and Rashad Bateman should be in your lineups. And of course, Lamar, the running backs, we really don't give a shit about the Ravens backs. But man, the Ravens allow the third most tight end points here. So Cole Kmet should be in play. And the Bears down here, they've been pretty stingy. They have allowed 3 touchdowns. So it wouldn't surprise me if Mark gets one. But they've been one of the stingier teams against tight ends down here. So what do we think here? Touchdown props. What sticks out? Everybody's plus. So that's fantastic. I think Montgomery plus 130 to score makes a ton of sense. I don't know about the Lamar Jackson rushing touchdown. That's kind of like a 50-50 call for me. I'm going to avoid Murray and Freeman. Mark Andrews, I don't love it. He has been playing well and scoring touchdowns, but I think if I'm going to bet anything, it's Marquise Brown plus 150 and then Rashad Bateman down here at plus 350. Wow. Those are the 2 Ravens ones that I like. Marquise and Rashad Bateman. I'll take those 2 guys. On the Bears side, it sounds like Allen Robinson's just not playing. So if you had to pick a receiver for them, it's Darnell Mooney. But the guy is Cole Kmet down here at plus 350. So this is the game where we get some of our juiciest odds. And I think I covered pretty much everything that I wanted to say there. So Kmet, Montgomery for the Bears. Maybe even a Justin Fields rushing touchdown. You know, he's at 260 here. I think I'd be okay with that. And then on the Ravens side, you're looking at Marquise, you're looking at Rashad Bateman. I want to go with the wide receivers here. And let's look at the rushing and receiving totals. I'll take Montgomery over 61.5. That feels pretty good. Reception yards, they don't have Marquise or anybody up on here. So we'll kind of stay away from that. But I do like Kmet over 41.5. So fun game here. Bears coming off a bye. We'll see what they can do. And let's go to Cincinnati at Las Vegas. First of all, let me show you guys what these teams allow. So the Raiders, pretty stingy against wide receivers for some reason. They allow quarterbacks, running backs, and tight ends to hit. And the Bengals, pretty stingy against tight ends. They allow running backs and receivers to hit. So with that knowledge, what do we got? Joe Mixon to score, minus 120. Again, we just said the Raiders do allow running backs to hit. So Mixon, minus 120, you have to consider taking that. We did notice that for some reason the Raiders are stingy against the wide receiver. I don't get that at all, but they ranked 27th here. We just saw Patrick Mahomes light this defense up pretty well. So I'm open to this kind of being wrong, at least. I like Jamar Chase. I like T. Higgins to score. If I'm going to take any Bengals to score, it's Mixon, Chase, Higgins, and then the last guy would be Uzama, because we do see that the Raiders allow tight end points. So those are the 4 guys that I would do. I'm a T. Higgins fan, so I'm always going to take a T. Higgins touchdown. So if you're feeling it, roll with T. Higgins with me. But Mixon for sure. I feel good about Higgins. I feel good about Chase. And then if you got the stones to do it, go ahead and take CJ Uzama. On the Raiders side, Josh Jacobs always feels good for a touchdown, plus 110. Again, we did note that the Bengals do allow, that's their best plays, play the running backs against the Bengals. So Jacobs is a pretty good spot here. There's stingy against tight ends. So like Darren Waller just really hasn't been having a great season. I think if I'm taking anyone to score for the Raiders, it's Jacobs and probably Hunter Renfrow. My bad. Jacobs and Hunter Renfrow. Those would be my 2 guys for touchdowns there. Brian Edwards has been coming on too, but I don't know. It's kind of tough. Jacobs and Renfrow are probably the plays. Looking at Mixon and Jacobs here. I like the Jacobs over 50.5. That feels kind of low. Same thing with Mixon. These both feel really low. Both teams are bad against running backs. So Renfrow at 61.5, whatever. I'll take T. Higgins over 64.5. I feel really good about a T. Higgins second half breakout. So that's where I'm going with this one. Let me go look at the Cardinals and the Seahawks. I think we're still awaiting word on Kyler Murray. But James Conner, minus 120, lock of the week. Stamp it, seal it, move it on. James Conner, lock of the week. Seattle allows the second most running back points here. Easy play. Seattle's defense is actually strong against QBs, receivers, and tight ends. They just can't defend the run. So we just saw A.J. Dillon go ham against them last week. We've seen Derrick Henry do it. We've seen a lot of running backs just have a day against Seattle. So James Conner, smash him all the way. The Cardinals, pretty stingy against everything here, but I have seen that running the ball against the Cardinals is their weakness. I don't know if the Seahawks have the people to do it. Alex Collins is a question mark. We just saw Chris Carson get put on IR and his season ended. So Collins, if he plays, he would probably be the guy that interests me a little bit. Otherwise, for me, it's clearly James Conner. That's the only one that I feel good about in this game. But perhaps DK Metcalf, perhaps Tyler Lockett. If I'm going to bet on any Seahawk to score, those are the two. And we'll kind of leave it at that. I really don't really feel great about much of this game. So I'm going to move on here. Just take the Conner touchdown and enjoy this one. Then we get to the game of the week. Cowboys and the Chiefs, man. This one is fun. We just saw Amari Cooper put on the IR. Not on the COVID reserve list, not the IR, but so he's out the next 2 games. So what do we do with that? For the Cowboys, first of all, let's look at this. The Kansas City Chiefs, still a pretty bad defense. They allow quarterback points, tight end points. For some reason, they're stingy against wide receivers, and they're kind of middle of the road against the running back. The Cowboys, though, middle of the road defense, kind of stingier against QB and running back. They do allow receiver and tight end points. So what do we do with that? For tight ends, you're taking Tyreek Hill to score. You're taking Kelsey to score. Outside of those two, those are my favorite Chiefs to score, as they should be for every week. But maybe Darrell Williams, he's been playing really well the last few games here. So Williams, Kelsey, Hill, those are your Chief touchdowns. And then on the Cowboys side, Zeke does feel pretty good. He's been playing pretty well. But it's CeeDee Lamb, Michael Gallup, man. I feel really good about that without Amari Cooper. And then Dalton Schultz, just because less mouths to feed. We're going to see Gallup and Lamb probably get the team lead in targets, but Schultz will be number 3. So Schultz is a good bet here. If you had to bet on Cowboys, it's Zeke, Lamb, Gallup, Schultz. Those are the 4 guys here. For me, I'm a big Gallup guy. I'm taking Michael Gallup this week. I think he's going to shine. CeeDee Lamb has been rolling with the touchdowns, and he's kind of the primary slot receiver. I'm interested, though, with no Amari Cooper, do they maybe move him outside a little bit more? We will see. But Gallup, Schultz does feel kind of good. People are kind of off from him, so I can see it pivoting back to him. So I'm probably going to write up a couple of these guys on the website here. But let's go look at the rushing and the receiving numbers real quick. I don't feel much good about some of the rushing props here. Let me look at the receiving numbers. I'm taking Gallup. People are taking Gallup over 54.5. That seems about right. That's really the only one that stuck out. So get the touchdown props on this one. Let me look at the QBs. I mean, I kind of like Dak to throw for 295.5 plus. People are betting the unders on the touchdown. So they're saying Dak under 2.5. They're saying Mahomes under 2.5. I'm willing to take the over on both of those. So if you're feeling risky, Dak over 2.5 and Mahomes over 2.5 could be kind of fun. So both guys could throw an interception too. I wouldn't be surprised if that happens, but super fun game. Get your touchdown bets in this one. I think there's going to be probably 3 or 4 touchdowns on both sides of the ball here. And then Steelers Chargers. We got our final 2 games real quick here. I'm just going to rifle off some touchdown props. The Steelers defense is going to be missing a lot of players. So for me, there's only 3 guys I trust. It's Eckler, Keenan Allen, and Mike Williams. Those are the 3 touchdown guys here. Go ahead and continue to take Eckler. You can run on the Steelers. I think the Lions showed us that last week. And then really the only guy I trust for the Steelers is Najee Harris at -120. The Chargers defense, really bad against running backs, really good against everything else. Maybe Pat Freiermuth here. He's been playing pretty well. So those are the touchdown props that I like in that game. And then the final game on Monday Night Football, Giants at Tampa Bay. They don't have touchdown props here yet, do they? I'm not seeing any touchdown props, so check back with me. It's the usual suspects, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, all that, yada, yada, yada. But this was fun. We just completed we just completed it. So that's going to do it. I'm going to, on thefantasyfellowship.com, if you guys click on the player prop page, I'm going to upload my top 5 favorite plays for the week. And then I'm going to make a big list of bets to consider. So if you want to check back with that, it'll be on thefantasyfellowship.com. I think the link's in the description below too. So thank you guys for hanging out. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Good luck tomorrow, and we'll see you later. Peace.